Good evening, followers of Carlos, fans of numerology, and would-be authors. This video is on Virgo and 6. Virgo rules the 6th house. She is the second of the earth signs. Plus, she is a mutable sign. She lives in her house with 3 spirits. At least one of them is also second, because she is the second number on the mental plane. However, first allow me in this video to introduce to you the 3 spirits living with her in this house. Firstly, her outer expression, which translates each consonant in her name to a value, then sums it up it sums up those numbers. Lastly, the total is reduced from 2 digits to 1 digit. Her OE is 2. For all the steps involved in this calculation, please check out the description. 2's color is orange. 2 is a first number on the emotional plane and symbolizes the gateway between her and her intuition. On the second floor resides her SU, which is short for soul's urge. She is 6. 6's color is blue. Much like Virgo is a second earth sign, 6 is the second number on the mental plane, as was mentioned above. Another similarity is their association with 6. Lastly, on the top floor is her full name, or short for full name is FN, is the number 8. Her color is magenta. In this video, I am breaking from tradition. Normally, the OE is male, yet this time Virgo's OE is female. The main reason for this has to do with another thing 2 symbolizes, the moon. Moon is motherly. Moon is very definitely a woman. If 2 symbolizes a specific type of woman, then she ought to be a woman too. Outer expression 2. The outer expression symbolizes how the audience and or neighbors perceive the being with that name. Virgo, in this case, is a being with the name Virgo. Her neighbors perceive her as an environmentalist. She is a healer and quite intuitive. When she feels flustered or just needs to relax, she goes for a hike, smells flowers, or otherwise interacts with Mother Nature. This brings peace back into her life and recharges her spirit. Plus, in her workplace, she is more likely to work with others in a team. She is a team player. 2's strengths mentioned above include being intuitive. Plus, she prefers a natural environment and working in groups. Thirdly, she puts much effort into being her friends and lovers equal in her relationships. She is a powerful number because she expresses empathy and has heightened intuition. However, OE2 has her share of weaknesses. Firstly, she is materialistic. Secondly, the more effort she puts into pleasing a person, the more likely she is offended when they put in less effort. The interesting thing is that if she takes their effort for granted, it becomes easy for her to ignore how much they put into the relationship. This means her friend may put in the same amount of effort. However, because she takes their effort for granted, she perceives this as them slacking off, and this offends her even though it's her fault for not realizing how much effort they're also putting into the relationship. In both cases, her weakness is her stumbling block. and that weakness is getting offended by their lack of effort. Secondly, put simply, is she demands others treat her as an equal. Thirdly, if she lacks confidence, then she doubts her own intuition. When a strength collects dust, the reason or reasons for this are a weakness. In this case, it is her doubt of her intuition that is a weakness. What does all this have to do with Virgo? There are many differences between Virgo and 2. There are also some similarities between Virgo and 2. Firstly, Virgo comes across as cold. She is not emotional, yet 2 is on the emotional plane. This is a first difference. Secondly, Virgo, even though she is quite devoted to those she cares about, is not a team player. However, if someone needs advice on how to formulate a plan, then Virgo becomes a team player. She offers keen insight on how to transform an okay plan into a great one. Lastly, Virgo is not known for her intuition. She demands cold, hard facts. Those are the differences between Virgo and 2. However, there are a few things Virgo does hold in common with her OE2. She does enjoy being of service to others. She is there for loved ones and friends when they come down with a cold. Secondly, she shares the weakness of being too materialistic. She has a love of money and the wealth it can buy. However, Virgo is great about saving money, which makes her less materialistic than she otherwise would be. This cures her from buying beyond her means. Lastly, Virgo is one of 4 mutable signs. This means she is at the mercy of her environment. This, from my limited understanding, is part of how she comes to resonate with 2's second strength, finding peace by being outdoors. Plus, Virgo is an animal lover. Of all the signs in astrology, Virgo and Sagittarius practically need to have a pet. How their respective houses are only a home for them when they share it with a pet. SU6. On the second floor of Virgo's spiritual house is her soul's urge. She is 6. 6's color is blue. She is great at interior design. If she is in a good and upbeat mood, then she sees an overall big picture. She knows what she feels and expresses her feelings through composition. This means she reorganizes the rooms to suit her heart. Her strength lies in being able to fine-tune the layout between various keepsakes. However, on a bad day, she gets overly hung up on details. She does too good a job of seeing the leaves and not the tree. Plus, all this fuss over molehills prevents her from seeing the big picture. Eventually, her creativity is anywhere between being stifled and blanketly ignored. This leads to her becoming overly bossy with her neighbors and falling into the depths of despair. 6 is a bit of a hybrid. She has traits that make her similar to the numbers on the emotional plane, yet she is a mental number. This, when used well, means she can relate and harmonize with others. Secondly, her strengths include being able to see the big picture. Thirdly, she has a keen eye for detail that allows her to express visual creativity. Unfortunately, just like any other number, 6 has her weaknesses too. Firstly, she is too perfectionistic. Secondly, she is a worrier. It is easy for her to fall into despair as she ignores her inner visual creativity or she worries how reality does not reflect that vision. Thirdly, she alienates her neighbors by being too bossy. How does the SU6 symbolize Virgo's relationship with her heart? Both Virgo and 6 are worriers. Even calling them out on worrying is likely for them to claim others worry more than they do. This comes across as them being worried about worrying. Basically, Virgo is so worried about being a worrier that instead of accepting they worry about being called a worrier or even being a warrior. Rather, somebody who worries. 6 has a tendency to be the same way. She worries about worrying. Secondly, Virgo is great when it comes to making others' plans include practical and concrete details. Yet she is likely to desire seeing the big picture that surrounds all the minute details. She loves knowing how things work. She takes a down-to-earth approach to applying what she knows, too. All these steps build up to the big picture. Thirdly, they are both outspoken when it comes to doing things the right way. This results in them being bossy. Even when others stop asking Virgo or 6 for their advice, they still insist upon offering it. Fourthly, Virgo differs from 6 in that she needs her workplace to be organized. If it is up to her, she focuses more so on function. Only if time and her mood permits does she focus on form. Yet in her case, this can result in visually appealing interior designs. This is especially true when her spirit floods the space, because as her neighbors interact with it, they sense her joy at being in the peak of efficiency. Lastly, both 6 and Virgo are intellectual. 6 is great about abstractions, whereas Virgo is great about concrete details. Perhaps this is the area of improvement for Virgo. If only she would learn to let herself go once in a while and just enjoy the journey, then she would be able to tap into her soul's urge well enough to fill in the steps by knowing why things work. FN8, which is short for full name 8. Virgo's FN is 8. 8's color is magenta. She is an authoritative, wise Lunarian. She keeps her emotions well hidden most of the time. Yet eventually she realizes her wisdom is born as a result of her having emotions. This unlocks her authentic wisdom, yet much of the time her emotions are quiet like the aura of the moon. As a result of keeping her emotions somewhat hidden, she frequently comes across as argumentative and acidic. Most of all is her aura of authority. Even before she accomplishes one deed, she is worthy of respect. It is rather interesting how Virgo has more on the emotional plane than on the intellectual plane, yet she prefers to engage in research. Thanks to this, the combination of 6 and 8 make her capable of separating the wheat from the chaff. Only if she relies on not only her own emotions, but also the impressions others' emotions leave upon her. 8 has several strengths. Firstly, she has an aura of authority. Something about her makes people want to do what she asks. Secondly, she has vast untapped wisdom as a result of her depth of emotion. Thirdly, she is willing to argue on behalf of her friends. She is fiercely protective of those she impulsively cares about. Those impulses are based upon her emotions and their intensity. Unfortunately, 8 suffers from numerous weaknesses. Most of them stem from the fact that she is emotional and keeps her emotions hidden. Firstly, she holds grudges against those who don't let her protect them by arguing for them. Secondly, she can be rather argumentative. Thirdly, her sarcasm packs a punch. This means her communications can be acidic. Perhaps the most important part of the FN is showing the person what job or jobs are well suited for them. In the case of FN8, this number shows Virgo that she is well suited for several different jobs. They include salesperson, attorney, accountant, philosopher, architect, and even researcher. Plus, she would do well as a business owner. Of these, I think 8 is best suited for being an attorney. She is argumentative and willing to protect her client at pretty much any cost. Plus, she is able to communicate to people's emotions. This makes her arguments even more powerful. If her wisdom is unlocked, then she can sense others' motives. All this is useful in the workplace of an attorney. 6. Her OE, SU, and FN. Intro. 6 is the second number on the mental plane. Despite her being such an emotional number, she truly does symbolize the intellect. The same is true for the ruler of the 6th house, Virgo. Mentioned earlier, they share much in common. If you are new to my channel, then here is a lesson about outer expression, soul's urge, and full name. Firstly, short for outer expression is OE. Then there is soul's urge. Short for her is SU. Lastly, FN is short for full name. As I understand it, all 3 represent symbols for various ways to perceive someone. Using the previous example for Virgo's personification, Virgo is her name. How the world and her neighbors perceive her is explained by the OE. Next, how she perceives her own emotional wants and needs, as well as the relationship she has with her heart, is symbolized by her SU. Lastly, as she seeks a suitable job to utilize her various strengths, and so her weaknesses do not stress her out, there is her FN. The FN is a great tool to doing a job better and finding the right job. Basically, it is the money maker. Unlike with Virgo, where we have a name to break down into these parts, this part of the video on 6 is the end result. It explains in detail what 6 symbolizes when it is a result for OE, SU, and or FN. Lastly, regardless of what technique produces a 6, 6's color is blue. 6, at least in numerology, is always associated with the color blue. OE6. If you discover a name whose consonants once totaled and reduced produce a 6, then you have discovered the outer expression of 6 for that name. The OE symbolizes how the world perceives the character or person with that name. They are outside. Hence, this is called the outer expression, or OE for short. Most likely in this case, the most remarkable thing about her, which refers to the spirit of 6, is a toss-up between her being too bossy, creating visually pleasing designs, or just falling into the depths of despair far too often. She can put others on a roller coaster ride of emotions thanks to all this. One moment she may create something of beauty, then in the next instant she is acidically bossy to everyone. Shortly after that, she is nearly hysterically fussy over detail only she can see. Her emotions drive her all over the place. This number, being 6, has several useful strengths. Firstly, she is quite good at reorganizing a few items in her room, and all of a sudden the visuals of the room pop with beauty. Secondly, she is good at seeing the big picture. This may be the difference between doing an okay job thanks to her FN and doing it quite well because she anticipates what is expected of her. All this thanks to her seeing the big picture. Thirdly, she is an intellectual number. She has an above average IQ most of the time. When used wisely, this is a strength. Unfortunately, OE6 has several weaknesses. Firstly, she can come across as narcissistic. Plus, she comes across as very bossy. She just does not care about pleasing others. She only cares about pleasing herself. Secondly, said earlier, she is too bossy. She gripes too much about how others do things, especially if they behave differently than she wants them to behave. Thirdly, her biggest weakness is that if she is not acting on her strength of creating visual, pleasing designs, then she is way too emotional. This leads to her just wallowing and fussy over trivial things that don't even matter. Much like Virgo, she insists upon wasting time on making mountains out of molehills. Therefore, all her weaknesses may alienate others so badly that she finds herself unemployed, lacking friends, or both. SU6. For the soul's urge, or SU for short, one finds this number by first converting each vowel in a name into its respective value, then totaling up these numbers, finally reducing them down to one digit. If this produces a 6 for the SU, then this part of the video explains what SU6 symbolizes. Firstly, in terms of perspective, the SU is subtle. It, or as I prefer, she, symbolizes the relationship between the person with the name and his or her own heart. Plus, it explains why they desire, what they desire. When they satisfy their SU, this strengthens their bond with their heart and helps them feel joy. Some names that include SU6 are Bob, Jean, and Rin Lee. With the SU6, this person desires to create visually pleasing environments. Plus, they desire seeing the big picture. This means when they have an epiphany and everything makes sense, this gives them a rush of joy, or being complimented for organizing things in a visually pleasing manner. Basically, the bearer of this name wants to utilize the various strengths mentioned earlier about 6. Unfortunately, a person with SU6 suffers from weaknesses too. Firstly, they may suffer when they stop making things of beauty. Secondly, they have turbulent emotions that frequently cause them to feel tormented. Thirdly, they probably get hung up for too long on things they realize later just do not matter, though at the time they feel like it matters more than everything. All this is symbolized by SU6 too. Lastly, FN6. If you, someone you know, or a character you are writing about has a name with FN6, then they are quite capable of being an interior designer. For here on out, she refers to the spirit of FN6. She is able to look around a room. She notices the various visuals. Next, she sees a big picture as she envisions a new layout for the room. Lastly, she moves items around to create pleasing visuals. Basically, she excels when it comes to composition. Her clients love how great her design puts them at ease. Plus, this has the added benefit of replacing her despair with joy. In summary, what parts of this video did you enjoy? Are there parts that could use improvement? What numerology video or videos would you like to watch in the future? Lastly, thank you for watching this video, liking and subscribing to it. And if you desire more information on numerology and what goes into giving characters names, then please click on the link below in the description. And hopefully all this helps you find your voice and hidden talents as a result of knowing numerology just a little bit better. Thank you once again. This is Carlos, turning in for the night and looking forward to reading your comments.